All right, I've got limited time with Pastor Locke here, which, by the way, you broke this news to me, and I think to the entire InfoWars audience, how your house got shot up. That's totally insane. So we may have time to deal with that, maybe not today. Here's kind of my takeaway, and I'd like to get your response to this, because one person I talked to a lot about this is my dad.
Yeah.
And he really enjoyed your segment earlier today. He was messaging me about how much I can learn from you, and I was just being stubborn about it. What I think is happening here, and I think last night there was a debate between Dinesh D'Souza and Nick Fuentes. Mm-hmm. What I think is happening here is that we have generational lines that we're running into on the right, and we have younger generation conservatives, older generation conservatives, and our belief system, our experience system is just totally different. Yes. and it results in us looking at different policy issues. So when I hear the Israel debate that's going on, here's my frustration, and I think the younger generation's frustration is, it's like, here we are talking about a foreign country again. I grew up in a city where I was literally, my first experience going downtown, homeless, degradation, decaying infrastructure, poverty, crime. And I'm just like, I'm sick of hearing about a foreign country, whether it's Ukraine, whether it's Israel. And then it doesn't help when we hear things like, oh, it's your biblical duty to support Israel. So I think that, from the younger generation's perspective, do you think that you can even change our minds? I mean, I'll tell you, I don't think you can.
Right. I don't know if it's all about changing your minds, but as you know, the media has so lied. People don't understand what really is going on in Israel, Gaza, with the Houthis, whatever. They've been so lied to, and TikTok has done such a good or poor job, however you want to look at it, of propagating a false narrative that the gap is almost too big to bridge at this point. It's a huge chasm. What do you view as the false
narrative?
Well, I mean, obviously, the number of people, first of all, that live in Gaza has been skewed. We get those numbers from Hamas because...
So you think it's less than 1 million?
Yeah, well, it's 1.5 million, but they say 2.2 million. Okay. But, the more people they say they have, then obviously the more money they get from other governments and from the UN and things like that. And then all the death tolls are strictly coming from Hamas. Listen, when the wolf gets to tell the story, the sheep and the shepherd are always the bad guys.
How many do you think have died? Because the high number is 100,000, the low number is 50,000.
Well, the low number is actually about 40,000. If it's been 50, look, I'm against any civilian, any child, any innocent person that gets caught in the crosshairs. What people don't recognize is Israel sends out leaflets, flyers by the tens of thousands for several days saying, this is where we're going to bomb. This is how long it's going to happen. Please get out of these areas. And people don't understand that Hamas are using these people as shields. They will not let them out. They are slaves to the government, basically, that they have, enacted, that they have voted in. And Israel's like, look, they're the only ones that are really feeding them. It was a beautiful moment. Now, it gave them a black eye, but it was a beautiful moment when Israel pulled back the aid. They didn't do that to starve people. There's no starvation going on in Gaza. They did that to prove that Hamas has millions of pounds of aid that's already there that they're not going to use to feed their own people. And so it was this moment where the media spun it and said, oh, look, they're starving the Gazans. But the Gazans began to realize, no, we have millions of pounds of food that our own people are not even using to feed us with. And everybody's like, well, Israel won't take them, and they've got a border wall. Egypt has one that's 10 times bigger than Israel.
Well, I'd say the whole world has abandoned that entire region.
Yes.
I don't think they're interested in Israel or Palestine at this point. Here's my interpretation. Here's what I hear. And again, I don't like making any blanket statements,
sure,
but just for the sake of this short conversation, I'll speak in generalities. Yep. What I'm hearing is, it sounds to me like you're getting a different transmission than what I'm getting. I'm getting a transmission that not only are Gazans starving, they're getting shot when they go to get aid. Right. And there's videos that I see that prove that. I'm also getting in the transmission that Israel is basically just carpet bombing the whole thing because they don't want to send people in on the ground, because they don't want to go into the tunnels and get blown up. They don't want to risk the IDF's lives. Sure. So they just figure, blow it all up, go in, clear out the rubble, and that's how they can deal with Hamas. And so it just seems like we're getting totally different transmissions. And so when I hear something like that, I'm like, that sounds like corporate media propaganda that has been fed to older generations for their entire lives, versus the transmission I'm getting is from social media and videos. And so it's like we're getting two totally different transmissions right now.
Well, we're definitely getting a lot of different transmissions from social media and all of that because people aren't actually there. None of these people that are doing these videos and the ones where the people are, there's been so much just debunked, right? There are people getting shot to get aid, but Hamas is shooting them. You'd think with everybody there that has a camera, they would at least show us a bunch of videos of IDF people shooting civilians. But what they're showing us is Hamas shooting civilians and then them saying this is the IDF that are shooting
Hamas
civilians.
Is killing. So we agree that somebody's killing people when they go to aid. You think that's Hamas?
Oh, 100%. I believe it's Hamas. 100%. There's no doubt about it because I know too many people that are boots on the ground in Gaza right now, and they're like, look, what is being said is a lie. Now, I told the government of Israel when I sat down with a number of them, I said, look, you guys are losing the social media battle. You're losing it because the young people do not believe it because what they see is all of this Hamas propaganda. Hamas is a huge propagandist machine.
You don't think Israel has more powerful propaganda than Hamas?
Oh, absolutely not. No, absolutely not. No, I don't think they have. I don't think they're putting the money in the propaganda.
I forgot about the Hamas American super PAC that buys all of our Congress.
Well, it's not the Hamas American super PAC, but there's no doubt that the Islamic regime is putting more money into the propaganda of the videos than Israel, because Israel's not trying to fight from a social media standpoint. They're trying to fight the ground game.
I think a lot of things get misinterpreted, and you know, I saw the comments, and I guess this is how you ended up coming in and doing the show with Alex today too, when you were speaking at a conference about Candid and everything. And I think that all these different dissenting voices kind of get lumped into one, whether it's Candace or Fuentes or even Alex at times or myself or others. And I think there's a lot of different things here. Like, I don't want to involve with any of them, honestly. I'm sick of Israel. I'm sick of the Palestinians. I'm sick of all of them. I got my own problems in my country. I've grown up in a country where every metropolitan area is decaying.
Yeah.
I see our money just being shipped overseas without any resistance, but we can't even get a tax cut passed. So it's like, this is where my frustration comes from. I think this is where the younger generation frustration comes from. But even if you want to get into the Israel issue, you know, I think there's fundamental questions where even we may have a difference. Like, who are the Jews?
Right. Well, the Jews are the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, 100%. Me and Alex even talked about it. People are like, well, you know, we just believe they're fake Jews. It just doesn't work that way, because here's one of the reasons that the chasm between what we believe cannot be narrowed, especially in 30 minutes, because I'm going to come solely from a theological standpoint, and you're going to see it solely from a either media infused or
political, I would say, political
standpoint,
100%.
which is fine, which I understand. But I'm going to see things totally different, because obviously I think we ought to be America first. But I also understand the fact that God says that America will be blessed if we do stand with, to some great degree, the Jewish people.
See, this is where I think we come into an issue, because I from my perspective, and I don't know, you may disagree, but it seems to me on the right wing, especially with electing Donald Trump twice, we all agree that America is heading in the wrong direction. I think we all agree that. So how can we claim that we've been blessed for supporting Israel all these years when clearly America has suffered since we've been supporting Israel?
America has suffered because we've had some lousy leadership, no doubt about that. But
they all supported Israel.
As far as the politics,
they all supported Israel, every single one of
them. They said they did.
Name a president that didn't go and kiss the Wailing Wall.
Joe Biden was not very friendly towards the Jewish people. He would have done everything he could.
That wasn't the question.
And what's that?
Name a president that didn't kiss the Wailing Wall.
Oh, I have no idea on who did or did not kiss the Wailing Wall. JFK.
Only one.
Okay.
We all know what happened to him.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm just saying there is no proof to say that us supporting Israel has blessed a country.
I don't believe that. I think that's crazy. We are the economic superpower of the world.
Then why aren't my cities better than the cities in the Gulf nation states?
Because we have bad leadership. That's not an Israel
Because our
problem.
leadership puts Israel first.
I don't believe that. No, it's not true. No,
but this is what you're arguing. You're saying because we support Israel, it's blessed America, but now you're saying America's not blessed because of our bad leadership that supports America.
No, America's blessed. So there's no way around that. We're a superpower, you know, politically. We're a superpower economically. We're a superpower militarily. But I'm telling you, we would be just like any other normal nation had we not stood and had an alliance with them for all of these years. Look at all the other nations that have stood against Israel. It hasn't boded very well for them. We just know how the end looks. And the end looks, every nation, Zechariah 12:9 says, every nation that fights against Israel, the Bible says, it's very graphic, God will burn their eyes out. God is going to bring every nation that fights Israel and that does not stand for the covenant of the Jewish people, not their government, right? God's not in a covenant with Netanyahu and the government of Israel. He's in a covenant with the people of Israel. And we have a biblical justification to stand with them, not to broad stroke all the bad decisions and the wars and the things that come to the table, to stand with the people in general. That's why we have a hard time generationally making the connection, because they are going to look at it strictly political, and I'm going to look at it strictly theological, which that's my worldview, because I believe my theology affects my politics.
Well, I would say, even if we wanted to get theological, I'm not so sure I'm convinced. In fact, I would say I'm not convinced.
Sure.
I would say the opposite, that the current nation state that we call Israel, the current landmass that we call Israel, has anything to do with the biblical Israel. I think that that's all propaganda. And I would guess if you did a DNA test that the Palestinians would have more Semite blood than the modern-day Israelis that are mostly Eastern European.
Well, again, I think that's going to be a lot of conjecture. That's a pretty big leap, because like I told Alex, there's a number of theological and prophetic reasons why we still believe that the people that are in the land and moving back to the land are the people. The ground's not going to prophetically grow back for fake Jews, right? There has to be 12,000 from each one of the 12 tribes of Israel in Revelation chapter 7.
I'm not saying fake Jews.
Yeah.
I don't even know. I mean, Israeli and Jew, I think, are two different things, I guess is what I would say.
Not necessarily. I mean, there's obviously some people that could, talk about being a Jew or an Israeli and not be, but Israel, the land, and Israel, the people, are the exact same as far as the Bible. God has a covenant with that land because he has a covenant with those people. And, we had heard all this Palestinian oppressive nonsense. When you go there, what you'll find out is they bus and they pay for 180,000 Palestinians to come into Jerusalem, to come into Israeli areas and work, Judea, Samaria, what they would call the West Bank. But those Jews are not allowed to go anywhere else. Israel's paying for much of their upkeep, their food, their housing. They're paying for their insurance in many ways. Even in Gaza, when Hamas won't take care of the Gazans and they need some medical attention, guess who takes care of them? Israel does. No questions asked.
Let me ask you about the government of Israel.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think Netanyahu has been a good leader for Israel?
I think Netanyahu's been a good leader. I think obviously he's made some poor decisions in the past, but I see him on the same vein as a Donald Trump. People like him because and I think Trump has helped with this. He's willing to say the hard things and make the hard decisions. He at least understands the history of the Jewish people and the hardness that they've had to go through. So, I think anybody that's been in politics as long as he's been in power for 18, 19 years, there's going to be...
Yeah, longer. Actually, he's technically been the prime minister for 18 years.
Yeah.
But it's been kind of on and off.
You're going to make some bad decisions. You're going to get involved in some crazy stuff. But I think by and large, especially in the last, let's say, 10 years, he's really withstood, I think, a lot that most politicians would have bent and bowed to. He's really kept his morals as far as the compass of this is our land, these are our people, and come hell or high water, we're going to stand for it. I got to give him that much.
Well, he's slipping in popularity in Israel, but perhaps that's maybe open for interpretation. I see reports both ways. I think he's afraid he's going to learn it.
I ask him when I'm there, and it's really it really is both ways. It's kind of a 50-50.
Well, and this is the truth about Iran. This is the truth about anywhere. The Western media, it all is propaganda, but they tend to try to put everybody into a box.
Sure.
But I've met Iranians. There's plenty of liberals in Iran.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of liberals. You'd be surprised, actually. You're like, how could they even exist? I'd be like, no, they're actually there. Real. They come and study in America. That's how I met them. Same thing in Israel. There's people that are all in for Netanyahu. There's people that can't stand Netanyahu. Yeah. So really most of these countries, Russia too, they all have a left and a right.
Sure they do.
We don't really get this fair reporting in the West, which I think makes it harder to really understand these global issues. Here's what I say, and my stance politically is I want to completely decouple from the Middle East. I think it's been a disaster for the American people, and that's what my concern is. But tell me if you agree or disagree with this. Okay. As you do care about Israel. I believe in your heart of hearts you
absolutely.
Do. I'll be honest, I really don't.
Okay.
If you do care about Israel, wouldn't you agree that you need new leadership? Because to me, I mean, would you disagree that the whole world has turned against Israel right now?
They are in the process of turning against Israel. But again, prophetically, they have to. God promises us in the Bible that that's going to happen, that all nations are eventually going to hate Israel. So my question is, for the years, how in the world is this ever going to transpire? But now we see exactly how it's transpired. They're being painted so evil and wicked and nefarious. Now the world hates Israel. But you look at that and you're like, okay, so we should hate them too. I look at it and I'm like, you know what? They're in the perfect spot for God to fulfill exactly what he said he was going to do.
Well, I don't hate anybody. What I see is Israel can get whatever they need from us without even a vote, but I can't even get a tax cut. And I think that there's no doubt whether it's 40,000 or 400,000 Palestinians, you know, people don't like what they've seen in Palestine. I think that that's a fact. And you might disagree, but the consensus now is that Israel stood down on October 7th and let the attack happen because Netanyahu wants to take the Gaza Strip. So I think the world is turning against Israel, not because of a painted picture. I think it's because of the reality. I think it's because of what they're seeing.
They're going to take the Gaza Strip because the Bible fulfills the fact that one day Gaza is going to be repopulated with nothing but Jews. Again, you can't get around that fact.
The Jews, though, but see, this is where you're going to get into a debate. I would bet you, if you did a DNA test for all the Palestinians and a DNA test for all the Israelis, the Palestinians have more actual genetic ties to that landmass than the Israelis, who are mostly Eastern European.
And if we believe that, which I don't, then we're going to have to say, okay, then God doesn't know what he's doing, and the people that are moving back,
I think God knows what he's doing,
are foolish.
Let me give you a little anecdotal evidence here. This is every prime minister of Israel. First one, David Gurion, real name David Grun, born in Poland. Next one, Mashi Sheret, real name Mashi Shurtok, born in Ukraine. Then Levi Eshkol, real name Levi Shkolanik, born in Ukraine. Next one, Yigal Alan, real name Yigal Pajkovic, born in the Ottoman Empire, Palestine. Next one, Golda Meir, real name Golda Mabovich, born in Ukraine. Next one, Yitzhak Rabin, first one actually born in Jerusalem, or called Mandatory Palestine at the time, but first one to be born in actual Jerusalem. Next one, Manichin Begin, real name Mazi Chekslaw Begum, born in Ukraine. So I can go on and on and on. Almost every single one of them has a fake name, and nearly every single one of them is actually from Eastern Europe. For the sake of the time here, I'm not going to go on.
Yeah.
Even Netanyahu's real name is Milakovsky. Now, granted, he was born in Tel Aviv. His name is Milakovsky. So how do you explain that?
Well, I explain it simply by, number one, I don't know about their name changes, but what I do know is God says he's going to regather the Jewish people from every region and every nation on the planet. And to me, they don't have to be born in Tel Aviv or in Jerusalem to be a prime minister of Israel. God's bringing them back. The biggest number of Jewish people that are moving back to Israel right now are from Moscow. They're Russian Jews, straight north. The Bible says they'll come from the north back to Jerusalem. And so God's regathering them from the entirety of the world. Even in the book of Acts.
But 500,000 Jews have left Israel since October 7th.
Well, there's a lot more Jews coming in than there are coming out. That much I know. I spend 20 weeks a year there. There's a lot of Jews that are moving back to the homeland. And listen, there's liberal Jews. There's leftist Jews. I get it. There's Jews.
Oh, yeah. They try to they influence the Democrat Party.
I mean, there's people that would consider me more Jewish in my theological thinking than even the Jews themselves. But it doesn't change the fact that God said, I'm going to gather them from all the nations. So even on the day of Pentecost, the Bible says there were 18 different nationalities. But all those nationalities were Jewish people. They were Jewish people from various places on the earth, and still to this day, they converge on Jerusalem during the major feast that they have.
Would you support policy? Because this is what I view this as inevitable. But would you support policy that Israel or AIPAC, anybody connected to Israel, has to register as a foreign agent, or that the United States, I believe, should cut all foreign aid, including Israel? Would you support a policy like that, or do you think America should continue with the military and financial?
Absolutely, I think so. Yeah.
Really?
And that's where we'll disagree. But yeah, I absolutely believe they should militarily and financially support the nation of Israel.
Yeah,
100%.
I mean, I know a lot of people feel that way. I think it's a generational thing, and
it could very well be. Absolutely,
I think it is. And I mean, again, not to paint any general picture here, because there's diverse people in every age group, but I think generally speaking, it is a generational thing. And I think too, when it comes to the rise in anti-Semitism, the different headlines that we see, I think it's because people take that personally. I will tell you, I take that personally. I take that personally, that any American would feel loyalty to another country. I will say that angers me.
Right. Well, we are loyal to the truth, right? We're loyal to the narrative of the Bible. That's the only thing that keeps my loyalty in. I don't broad stroke what they do and all of the things, but I do believe that we have a national responsibility to stand for the people of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Just simply because the Bible tells me I have to. If I'm a Christian,
but the Bible doesn't tell you that your government and your country has to.
Well,
if you want to, go ahead.
Absolutely.
It's a free country.
Yeah. Well, I can't sway the governments one way or the other.
You don't have to. Israel already does.
Yeah, but I'm going to stand with the people, and I believe I need to live in a nation that stands with the people. Listen, this much I can tell you. If America ever made a statement that we will cut off Israel, have nothing to do with them, I promise you I'd move to Israel tomorrow.
Really?
Absolutely.
Well, you're going to get that opportunity.
I promise you.
Yeah, I would say at this rate, all support for Israel, definitely in America, all support will be gone 10 to 20 years. 20 years max, 10 years minimum, I'd say.
Absolutely not.
I'd say, 100%. In fact, I'd say maybe even by the 2028 presidential elections, coming out against Israel will now become popular.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's going to be popular. It's certainly cute to do that these days, but it's not going to happen in the finality of things in America, not anytime soon. And I could show you in Revelation why it's not, but again, we can agree to disagree on that.
Have you ever heard of the Schofield Bible?
I have.
What do you think about
it? I'd love to have that discussion for a couple of reasons.
I'll tell you what, actually, I would love to do, because I'm not a big theological guy.
Yeah.
Because I look at the Bible like a good movie.
Yeah.
When I was in prison, I read the Bible cover to cover.
Yeah.
And it was great.
Yeah.
And you learn a lot. You remember a lot of the stuff. I grew up in a Christian household, went to Christian schools. So you remember a lot. But, it's kind of like when you go through it the way you do, to me, it's like a good movie that you watch over and over. And a good movie, like you've seen a movie 10 times, and then the 11th time, you're like, oh, wow, I never noticed that before. So I kind of view the Bible the same way. I read it cover to cover once recently. Sure. So I don't claim to be the expert in the Bible. I'm an expert on political and current events. That's my masterpiece. Sure. Would you be willing to actually do a debate with another pastor that is more on the side that, just to put it as a statement, for lack of a better word, that is more against the fake Jews, or Israel,
like Stephen Anderson,
Satan,
guy like him.
That name has been brought up to me. Or another one, Joel Webon. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's another one that's kind of rising up on social media.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love debate. Yeah. I just love it. I love disagreement because it's what makes us stronger. And I salute you. I salute everybody. If you're willing to come to the table and you are staunch and convicted in your beliefs, then I respect that, even if we disagree.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we got to learn to disagree righteously in a good way. So bring him on. I'd be glad to, because I know a lot about this Schofield situation.
I would love to do that. I'd be happy to do that. I know that you got to run. But before we go here, I can't believe this. I never even heard about the guy coming to your house. How is that? How is that? How do I not know about that?
I don't know. It was huge news all over the world. It was this past October.
Yeah.
Yeah, it happened this past October. It was this madman.
But that is God working. You were telling the story earlier. God is in charge of everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
That. When you have a moment like that, I can't even imagine with family.
Yeah.
When you have a moment like that and God.
That's a revelation moment when you realize, okay, God is going to protect you no matter what you face.
Yeah, that's an.
It's life-changing. There's no doubt about it. We moved, and it was a big deal. We had to live in hotels for about a month and a half with all of our kids and a grandkid. And it was a scary time.
Is this fallout because you were stood against COVID, or like what is the?
You know what? We've had so much fallout, really starting from the COVID. It's hard to even know what it is at this point. People burning Bibles, people coming against the house, people threatening our church, and it's just crazy. We've been in 8 lawsuits since COVID.
I'm going to get the last laugh. I just can't help myself. If you were a Jewish church leader or they were burning the Old Testament, it would have been a bigger story. They would have been arrested. But you're facing Christian discrimination. All right, Pastor Greg Locke, a great sport, a great debater. Yeah. I think we're going to hear more from him, too. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, my friend.